All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Minor Obsession. I'm Scott Lieberman with Sean Newton. We've got a pretty good show for you today. We're talking about women's basketball. We've got golf on the docket, tennis, baseball. What else we got, Sean?
A gentle reminder that our third of the three-part series of interviews for football coming out next week. Coach Will Healy himself, the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers for this season. So just a little promo there that keep your eyes out for next Tuesday's episode because that'll be the creme de resistance for our football interviews.
It should be really good. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed the first two.
We obviously don't have an intro of Will Healy talking about how great he himself is. But I think if you ask the other coaches, they'd have some good things to say.
And if you listen to those two interviews, they had a lot of good things to say about Will Healy. So we don't need to hype him up anymore, but we really appreciate all the coaches that gave us their time and energy and really got a good vibe going for us. So I'm really excited.
Agreed. So diving into some of our sports here, we've got women's basketball to close out. So the women actually got a NIT bid to play VCU in the first round and put up a pretty good fight. Ended up 65-52 as the final score. They closed out the first half down by just a few buckets, right around 7 or so at half. And then had a really strong third quarter and just got overpowered in the fourth quarter. A couple points here. Jade Phillips, being Jade Phillips, 13 points, 12 rebounds, another double-double, headed into the NIT tournament. Mariah Linney getting 13 points again. She went 2 for 5 from downtown and 5 for 6 from the free throw line. And then another point is Leah Raventos, who we missed in the Conference USA tournament, got a chance to return to the team and be on the squad for the NIT tournament, which I really appreciated. And I'm really happy that the senior guard got to come back and play with her team one final time before she closed her book on college.
Yep. So congratulations to the women's team for making it to the postseason. And we look forward to more postseasons hopefully next year.
Yeah, I mean, almost the entire team's returning, minus Raventos and I think one other player. So the sky's really the limit. I think with the adversity that we've overcome this year, I know Coach Consuegra talks regularly about the adversity we've had to overcome this season. So hopefully we don't run into as much next year and look for a better finish in the Conference USA tournament and then possibly an NCAA bid. We'll see.
Fantastic. So moving on, let's touch on baseball real quick. So since the last time we talked about baseball, we were talking about the heartbreaker against NC State. And unfortunately, that's kind of led us in I don't want to say a downfall, but a poor direction. Going into that NC State game, we were 8-7 and played that game pretty well and should have won that game potentially. Since that NC State game, we're 3-7-1. So now our record is 11-15-1. So we've definitely hit a rough patch,
Yep.
But of course there's a lot more baseball to come, and we can power through this. A few high points, Sean. Who do you want to talk about from the baseball team? Who's your favorite?
I'm loving a few players, but I'll call out specifically Harris Yet. He's they call him Yeti bombs when he shoots them over the fence, but some of those shots he throws, like at the Clemson game, he hit one to left field that went over the little picnic area cover out in left field. It was just crushed. He's batting .368 on the season, 5 home runs, 24 RBIs. I'm really appreciating our catcher there. And I think all in all, the Clemson game, again, was another tough loss. We were down 4 runs, came back, tied it up, but we immediately gave back 4 more runs. So it's really tough to not give run support to the pitcher to start the game and then fight back, have a brand new game, tie ball game towards the second and later innings, and then have them pour runs right back on. That's really heartbreaking there.
Sure. And I'll give a shout out to Carson Johnson. He's had 6 games so far this year with 3 hits.
One of those being the NC State game.
He having a really nice season and batting .327, really doing some nice things. So good stuff from Carson Johnson, and hopefully the baseball team will turn it around and get moving in the right direction pretty soon. Still, a little sub 500, but can get there in one good series.
Yeah, I mean they came into Conference USA play, so that's always tougher when you're playing your conference schedule, and Conference USA actually has some pretty good baseball teams. So we'll see how they finish down the stretch here in the final few weeks of the season. Moving on, we've got tennis. We haven't talked about tennis on the podcast yet, but really liking what the women's team and the men's team are putting down. Starting with the men's, we're 8-11 right now. Getting into conference play, we've got Middle Tennessee State coming up April 5th at 3 p.m. So if you're around, that's at home. If you're around Charlotte area and want to come out and support the men's tennis team, be sure and stop by. But women's tennis, I think everybody who's listened has heard either Mike Hill or somebody else mention Anthony Davison, who was a Charlotte 49er men's tennis player and is now the women's coach in his first season. And what a turnaround we've had. Last year, 9-13. So far this year, 15-6. We're third in the conference right now. We've got a couple home games coming up on April 5th. We've got South Carolina State and then USC Upstate back-to-back. So we've got a 10 a.m. game and the 3 p.m. game. Really impressed with what Anthony's been able to do, turning the team around. Really impressive first season, and hopefully that is what the rest of Mike Hill hires do in the first few seasons that they're in town.
Yeah, and shout out to Anthony. I took classes with him. Good guy. So I feel like I'm almost coaching the women's tennis team.
I think he might disagree with you on that one.
In spirit, not in skill.
Have you been to one and helped play with the lineup there?
Mentally I've thought about it. I haven't talked to Anthony about it yet, but we'll get him on the podcast and we'll go through the lineup.
You haven't been texting him your choice doubles pairings for the day?
Not yet. So last sport we're going to get to is golf. Another thing we haven't touched on, and something that we've been nationally ranked in at times, which is pretty exciting. First in the country multiple times. So real quick, the men's golf team not having a great year thus far. They finished 15th out of 15 in the last tournament, which was the John Haidt Collegiate Invitational. But shout out to freshman Ben Woodruff. He went plus 12 and tied for 34th in that tournament. Plus 12, 228 total. That sounds like one round, maybe 2 rounds of golf for me. So good stuff from him. And then the women's team really doing some good stuff in I believe their second season.
Yeah.
So a new sport, and they finished in the top 5 for the second straight week and have come in the top 5 4 times this season. In that most recent one, they beat a few top 50 teams, which included Virginia, who's number 15, Oregon State, who's 30, East Carolina, who's 49, and Virginia Tech, who's 50. So nice job by the ladies doing some good stuff in women's golf.
I've been really impressed with, again, like you said, the second season and already having good results. They had a good season last year, too. So another good sport to watch that doesn't get a lot of publicity, but is doing good things for the school.
Yeah, and shout out to Rocky River, which is our home course.
That's all the main sport updates we have, but we do have the spring game coming up, and I'm pretty excited about it. We've just finished talking to all the coaches, and everybody's had a chance to hear what they have to say. Scott, what's your thing you're most excited about seeing at the spring game?
That's a great question. I think the 2 things I'm excited about seeing is the energy from the team. I keep seeing these hype videos from Charlotte 49ers football. Shout out to them. They've retweeted us a few times. So we're big fans. But I keep seeing these hype videos, these little 15-second, 1-minute clips of the celebrations, the intensity, the hard work and effort, the sweat equity. So I'm excited to see that in person and really see how fired up they get. And personally, I think the offense is going to be fun this year. I don't know how much they're going to showcase it in the spring game, but I'm excited about that pro style option and seeing a lot of running and seeing some of the new players out there.
Yeah, I think the energy, I'll echo that with you because everything I've seen them post looks super energetic, and everything I've seen Will Healy say is, I think we may not be the best, we may not outplay the other team, but we definitely will bring more energy than them and out-hustle them, which I think that can win you games at times, especially in the game of football. So the things I'm looking at, looking to see how our really top tier defense transitions to this new coaching staff. We were at times last year flirting with top 10 in the country in terms of defensive efficiency. And the other thing I'm looking at is the QB situation. I've heard Coach Healy say he's interested in having multiple QBs play in a game. We've got several QBs on the field coming back from last year, whether it be Reynolds or Sheriff. We've got the transfer coming in from USF. So I think that's a one spot that I'm really interested in seeing how that shakes out and getting a preview of what the season might look like.
Yeah, and we'll definitely do a football preview. I know we've got a lot more months till football starts, so I'm curious about your pretty big questions you have there. I don't know if that's going to all be uncovered in the spring game, but you never know.
You can get glimpses of it. You can see what QBs lead in each of the teams and kind of how they're gelling with the offense. Sometimes it's tough. If you pair a QB up with all of the second string, and that's the reps they're getting right then, it's hard to see what they'd look like with the first string players. But it's always good to just get a glimpse and see. They may do some multi QB options in the spring game just to give the fans a taste of what's to come in the season.
Yeah, and I'm the last thing I guess I'm curious about, and this goes back to our 3-part series, cheap plug. Alex Atkins versus Marcus West on the coaching front in the spring game. Are they gonna battle? Are they gonna get on the field? Are they gonna arm wrestle? Who's gonna really be superior in the spring game? Is the offense just gonna be running and gunning, or is the defense gonna make some nice stops?
I'll judge it by the energy they put in. If they're running up and down the sideline, happy when something happens and the first one to rush out to the field, I'll give whoever does that the best the win on that one.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully everyone comes out to that. That'll be April 13th at Jerry Richardson Stadium. And remember, next Tuesday, so leading up to the spring game, we'll be releasing our third part of our 3-part football series with head football coach Will Healy.
And until then, feel free to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Send us an email at minorobsession49@gmail.com or check out minorobsession.net and catch up on any other of our episodes you might have missed.
And as always, remember to wear green
and go Niners.